since I'm talking remakes, I might as well talk about the My Bloody Valentine remake, which, honestly, this one I think is really close to the original for me. It's surprisingly, like, this is my first watch for it, and I've seen the original before, and I need to review it, but the original I think is really good, actually. The original My Bloody Valentine is really entertaining and a really good 80s slasher. And this one, the 2009, like, remake, is a really good remake. Honestly, it really surprised me in how this is a very good throwback to 80s horror. It really has that style that really makes this stand out from a lot of the movies during this time, a lot of the horror remakes, ones that tried to be way more different than their original film. And in this one's case, it felt like it was trying to be like the original, like it was cheesy 80s fun, and I really, really liked it. And I'm going to kind of go through the plot with my notes and say what I liked and disliked about it. It's mostly going to be what I liked about it, though, because there really wasn't much that I disliked about it. I think that there's not, like, it's just fun entertainment. I think that this one didn't really give me anything to argue against. Like, I enjoyed this movie all the way through. So it starts out with that Harry Warden guy, like, in the original, like, he's the only survivor of this mine-in shaft, or, like, the mine break-in, or bust-in, and so it's like, he's the only one left, but then he comes and tries to kill these kids, and then it just immediately cuts to 10 years later, where the original movie, I think, did that too. And I like the fact, too, that we get, after this, or at the beginning of the movie, honestly, we get Tom Atkins in this movie, which is really cool. Tom Atkins, 80s horror actor, and a lot of 80s horror. Halloween 3, The Fog, like, he's really just a great actor, and I love seeing him in this. He's definitely gotten old, but he's awesome. Like, I love seeing Tom Atkins and stuff. That was great seeing him in this remake. Like, that was a cool casting choice to make it feel like it was in the 80s type of, like, nostalgia connection to it. Like, that's cool having him in this movie. I really like that. But that's just awesome he's in this. But then we get this brutal hospital murder thing where, like, actually, this isn't even 10 minutes. This isn't even 10 years later. It's still the beginning, so forget what I said when I said 10 years later, because that'll happen soon. But right now, it's like the hospital murders where, like, Harry is taken there, and then he murders everybody. And it is brutal, like, seeing the aftermath, just going in there, and Tom Atkins goes in there. It's really disturbing. Like, it's cool. It works really well, and its tone really works for it. But not even 10 minutes in, we get all these people butchered at the hospital, and then we get these teenagers, Dean from Supernatural, whatever his name, Tom in this movie, and then Jamie King's character, and these two other people are going in the mine shaft to party, and then, like, of course Harry comes and shows up, and he tries to kill them. He kills a couple of them. He saves, like, Dean's stuck back there with him, but he makes it out. Or I'm not gonna call him Dean, because he's not really Dean from Supernatural. It's Tom, but that's the actor. I did that halfway through the movie before I realized what his name was, so I was like, oh, it's Supernatural guy. Even though I've never seen Supernatural, I just know that guy distinctly, that he's in that show. But I really liked that it was only 10 minutes in and all this carnage happened, and it reminded me of the Friday the 13th remake, but I thought this was better, where it did, like, a quick thing where it's like these group of people, and then they all die, except for a couple of them, like Jamie King's character and Tom, and they lived 10 years later. But I thought it was more fun and more interesting in this one than the Friday the 13th remake, which I think is just alright. Not very good at all. I don't really like it. Really not a remake I enjoy, but this one I enjoyed. This one was great. Really awesome. But Harry escapes after being shot at, and then it cuts to 10 years later. So you're like, Like the original movie, you're like, oh, is Tom? I mean, is Harry? Is he still alive? Where is he at? And like people in town say they buried him, but who's killing now? Who's doing the killings? And I won't spoil it now. I'll keep going through it, but it's gonna be the same, almost same kind of ending as the original. So if you know the original, you kind of know, but it's still different. But Tom comes back into town and he's gonna sell mines 10 years later. And then the guy who played Carter from Final Destination is the cop, Axel, who is against him because of him trying to sell the mines, which really runs this town. It literally runs the town, but it's had so many horrific things happen. But it still runs the town. It keeps everybody have, like, stuff. Like, they need to use this mine to run the town, and Tom's going to sell it. And I don't know, like, it has a lot of moments where it's like, it just cuts to these other characters to get killed, but it's fun. Like, the Frank guy, and Irene, I think she's just a prostitute. Like, they have sex, and then, of course, Harry is there, and he goes and tries to, he kills Frank, and then he chases Irene, and she runs and hides in this motel, right in another room where she just had sex with Frank. But she goes in there, hides in this room, and there's this little woman that was introduced earlier that Tom was talking to. The little woman comes in to look for her dog, and then Harry comes and just impales her through the neck and just like hits her up into the ceiling. That was brutal, and especially because he was a littler person too. It just made it more cruel. I was like, wow, okay, that's horrible. But yeah, like scenes like that are fun. Like it really gives off this 80s feel in terms of just how the story goes along and how these characters are just introduced to be killed, but they have a personality and a fun to them. Like, it wasn't something like, say, the movie Valentine, which I just recently watched for the first time, and that one I felt like had no personality to it and nothing different. And this one I felt like was more akin to the 80s slashers and felt more fun and had more charisma to it with all the characters. But this is just great overall, so fun. But then it has Tom and Sarah, who Sarah is married to Axel, and Tom and her kind of had a thing too. So it's kind of a love triangle thing, but it doesn't overplay it, so it's fine. I didn't mind it, but and then I like the fact that this Tom character is trying to sell the mines, but like, because I think his father owned him, and then he goes into the bar with these townspeople, and Tom Atkins is there, and they have like, all of them have this squabbling argument, and the acting is really good from the guy who plays Tom, the supernatural guy. Like, this is a really good scene, and it actually gave this guy really good acting chops. And like I said, I haven't seen Supernatural or really anything he's been in, but I'm assuming he's a good actor, because this really sold it. That scene in the bar where like he was screaming at everybody, like, I thought it was really good. It actually was an underrated performance. Like, in that scene, I was like, wow, that's good. That's not something you see in a movie like this. Even though I love horror, it's just like, you don't see that in a lot of horror movies. And then like there's a scene between Tom and Sarah trying to convince them to not sell the mines, and I liked it. I cared for these characters, and I thought that they felt pretty real, and I thought that it's like they weren't sleepwalking through it. I felt like I knew these characters, and I felt like I understood their situation, and the characters, I felt for them, and I like that you can do that in a movie like this, because usually not a lot of horror movies you do that. And then we get to this scene in the grocery store where like Sarah and this other girl are there, and it's really good. It's an awesome scene where Harry comes into the grocery store and turns off all the lights, and like they've got to escape, and it actually really is tense. It works really well, like them running around the grocery store, hiding in an office. There's a window that's locked from the outside. The girl's got to get a key, unlock it with her arm pulled out the window to try to unlock it, and it's really tense, really works. And then of course Harry's gone from the other side, so he pulls the girl out right when she gets the window open. But that scene was good with the intensity. That really worked. I really enjoy scenes like that in the movie, and the movie is like that all the way through. And there's a scene at the house which is really good where Axel and Sarah's kid is there, and the maid gets killed, and the kid hides, but then the police come in and like Tom Atkins comes, but then Tom Atkins, which I didn't think I'd see this, Tom Atkins gets freaking impaled with the pickaxe like through his throat, and it rips out like outwards like that, and it was disgusting. It was definitely CGI heavy, but it worked. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy to see him die in a movie. Like, I just haven't seen all of his movies, and the ones I've seen he usually lives through, like The Fog or Halloween 3. Well, Halloween 3, questionable. And I liked how it kept going with the Sarah thing, where like Tom and Axel, like they both like her. Axel is married to her, but Tom likes her still. And then I like the fact that they both are trying to convince Sarah, like one of them's the crazy one, and there's cool hints to where it makes seem like either one will be. And I like the fact that Sarah at the end, while they're in the mine, she has to hold them at gunpoint because she doesn't understand which one is the real killer. Like, one of them is crazy, one of them is. And this is where the movie gets good, because even though it was already great already, but in the original version, Axel was the one who was crazy. In this one, Tom's crazy, and that was a cool difference. Like, it's where they're held at gunpoint, and then Tom's like, Sarah, look behind you, there's somebody behind you. And then they both look, Sarah and Axel, and they're like, there's nobody here. And then you see like the axe guy coming at them. Right when he gets near them, he fades away. And you realize that it's just Tom's mind messing with him. And then you see flashbacks of Tom doing all these killings, warping in and out of the different personalities of him and him and Harry. That's really good. And it just, even though it's just a different character that was the twist instead, I thought that was really well done. And then Tom, of course, still makes it through. Like, he gets shot in the stomach, and then it flies through and hits like a pipe and it blows up. But I like the fact that even though this one didn't get a sequel, I wish it did, because that would have been fun to see more of these, because we've only got the original in this one. I bet this made money. I feel like this did, but I liked how Tom still made it through to the end. So we could have had a sequel, and I just talked about the April Fool's Day remake, where it kind of implied that like, oh, that could have a sequel too. But I thought that one was way worse than this one. This one is honestly really underrated and really awesome. A great throwback to 80s horror. It really just, I dug the whole thing all the way through. It just really got me. Just such a great remake. And it's honestly one of the way better remakes I've seen, because it just really is so fun, so silly. It captures that nostalgia of 80s slashers honestly really perfectly.